In this episode, we ask a question that many avoid but everyone should confront. Who is messing up our lives? Someone or something out there is clearly making or trying to make life miserable for us. Who is this person or thing? And more importantly, who can save the situation? Is it the government, the church, or someone else entirely? The conversation goes beyond the surface and examines the real structure of society. Why is it that no matter how hard we work, the outcome of our lives still depends on others? Is this simply a broken system, where those in power are disconnected from the purpose of their position? This conversation will challenge what you think you know, and open your eyes to something deeper, an almost forgotten, yet powerful institution. If you've ever felt that something fundamental is missing in how the world operates, or if you've ever wondered how your life can truly improve, this is your invitation to learn something profound. Stay with us. This one matters. Welcome back. If you are new here, please subscribe and follow us on all NEAT social media platforms at neatcommunity.ng. Also, it will be nice if you can turn on the notification icon so you can get notified each time we upload new content. NEAT is an acronym for Nigerians Engineering Astounding Tomorrow. It is an initiative designed to bring together young and intelligent Nigerians who have what it takes to look beyond the challenges and divisions in the country and formulate a plan that would transform the nation and follow through with the plan. Great. Now, on to the conversation. Who do we look up to in this life, the government or the church? That's the focus of today's conversation. It is about understanding the problems we all face. Where did they come from, but most importantly, who can save us from them? Is it the government, the church, or are we to do it ourselves? Some people, actually a lot of people think they don't need saving. They think that if they can work hard, stay focused, and give it all they have, they will build a good life. To these people, sitting down and waiting for any government or anybody to save them is a waste of time. Are you one of those people? The truth is that it does not work that way. We all need saving. So let's start this conversation by explaining who we need to be saved from and why we all need saving. Say you have a plan for your life. Maybe you want to get a degree and then land a job, or you want to learn a trade and build your own business. It could be that you want to start up a new business. Whatever it is, the chances of success of that thing depend on the direction in which society is moving. Take the example of a student in an average university in Nigeria. The chances of graduating in time depend not just on the student's hard work, but on a lot of other things. The economic direction of the country, the professionalism of the lecturers, the attitude and culture of fellow students. A lot of things. Even with minimal wrongdoing from the student, they could end up not graduating in time or even losing their lives because of societal direction. The same applies to business people. A fire outbreak, criminal activity, or even a change in policy could easily send things downhill. The reality is that no matter how smart or focused you are, your effort alone is not enough. Your success is tied to the values and systems around you. It's like being a passenger in a car or on a plane. You can be calm, hardworking, and responsible, but if the person in charge is reckless, you're in danger. Without a system outside your individual effort to prevent such carelessness or recklessness, you could end up paying the price. It is the reality that all of us are subject to this that puts us all in danger and why we need to be saved. You can even relate this to your own life. You can think of any bad experience you've had in the past. Was it entirely your fault, or did another person play a role? Here's the thing. Whether we accept it or not, the truth remains. Our lives, our futures, even our happiness, all depend on the actions of others. Every single moment we face risk, not just from strangers, but from the very people meant to protect us. Whether deliberately or not, once they are unable to fulfill their obligations, our fate slips out of our hands. But the big problem is that whether strangers or not, everyone is all subject to the societal pressure and direction. This means that even the closest allies under unknown pressure could cave in. It means that power meant to serve could easily become a tool to harm. It is not just about danger, it is also about being able to live the life we all want. You can take a moment and think about that thing you truly wanted. A house, a family, property. Why don't you have it yet? More often than not, it's because someone along the line, someone who was supposed to play their part, didn't. Whether they failed on purpose or not doesn't change the fact that they failed, and their failure affected you. Now flip it. Somewhere out there, right now, someone else is going through something difficult because of your own actions or inactions. That's the reality. It is a highly connected world that we often fail to see for what it is, and it is responsible for why there are a series of failures everywhere. But here's the big question. Who created this kind of world? A world where we can't even go to bed trusting that the next person will do what they're supposed to do. And more importantly, how do we fix it? Can it even be fixed? Because if our survival depends on it, and it seems it does, then someone has to fix it. The general perception is that it is the job of the government. The calls are getting louder for governments everywhere to step up and fix these broken systems. In the last video, we talked about how the failure of Nigerian law enforcement led to the deaths of 16 people. That one failure sparked a chain of events that still hasn't ended. And even that tragedy had roots in earlier government failures. This brings us to the key question we want to tackle in this conversation. Is it realistic to expect any government, whether Nigerian or any other government, to build a system where no one's action or inaction becomes a stumbling block to another person's desires? If it is, then what is stopping them from achieving that? One of the things limiting us from seeing the true capacity of the government is the pressure on the government. As much as many are raising concerns and voices for the government to do better, some people, actually a lot of people, seem unconcerned. Their inability to add to the pressure on the government is limiting how much the governments are able to push themselves. These people, as noted earlier, still believe that as long as they focus on work, business, and taking care of their families, they'll be fine. But will they? Does that mindset really protect anyone from facing the consequences of a chain of events they never started? This mindset of focusing only on personal survival not only reduces the pressure governments should be feeling, it also ignores a deeper truth. No matter how much you build, no matter how secure you think your family is, their ability to enjoy any of it still depends on the world around them. It depends on other people. If tomorrow becomes more unstable, then everything you've worked for, your investments, your peace, your future, could all be swept away. Some also argue that the silence from governments in developed nations is part of the problem. The position is that because inequality in those nations doesn't always appear as severe, leaders tend to ignore the fact that it still exists and is growing. The fact that many people can't afford homes is often overshadowed by the visibility of a few who seem to afford everything. But no matter how advanced or secure a country claims to be, the problems we've mentioned still live beneath the surface. When you study any nation carefully, you will see the truth. They all have many people who are struggling with the cost of living. They can't afford the basics. The kind of life someone could build decades ago with a simple job, like working at the post office or doing manual labor, is no longer possible for most. That's why, even while many remain silent, others are beginning to speak up. People are getting really concerned, not just about today, but how this thing will escalate tomorrow. There are several contents out there around this topic, although most of them points the need for governments to do more. But here's where the real debate begins. Is the government even the right agency to fix this? Does it have the capacity to handle these challenges? Or has our failure to apply the right kind of pressure only helped to hide a deeper truth? That the government in its current form may not be capable of taking humanity where it needs to go. These are the questions we should be asking. What made people believe the government could do better? What's the logic behind thinking the government can solve this problem? Because if you really trace the roots of these issues, it all comes down to one simple fact. We live in a world created by governments, and they are built on ensuring that humanity as a whole does not produce as much as needed to sustain everyone and the environment. Just look around. The houses we build, the ones we celebrate and glorify, are not designed for community needs. They're built for personal comfort, emotional pride, and status. You'll see large, empty land in communities where people sleep without shelter, or clusters of oversized homes squeezed into areas that could have supported farming or served more families in better ways. In our cities, buildings sit empty while people sleep in the streets. In many places, the structures we put up aren't shaped by shared need. They're shaped by individual ambition. They all point towards a system designed for waste, idleness, and resource control for a few to the detriment of many. In the name of what we call luxury, one person can take up several acres of land just to build a mansion, a house so big they barely use even 20% of it. And it's not just about land or buildings. Even in the labor market, the world itself is dysfunctional. We have millions of people with intention, willingness, and capacity to work, but are not engaged. People with ideas, skills, and ready to contribute, but in a system that doesn't let them, just to ensure that a few are comfortable. One thing most of us do not realize is that it is the governments that created this system. But the question is, how long will this system continue to exist? What is keeping it intact in the first place? Is it that everyone agreed to it? Is it really a good permutation to estimate that those who are feeling the brunt of it are happy? The truth is that they're not. Most are just enduring, staying quiet not because they agree, but because they fear the cost of revolting. But deep down, they're waiting for the moment when silence gives way to action. Especially in countries like Nigeria, many are just waiting for an unrest to express what they have been feeling for years. So, what is keeping this dysfunctional world together isn't because it is the best humanity can have, or that it is generally accepted. It is because there is a law created by governments to uphold this. Laws that target the comfort of a few at the expense of the suffering of many. It's a calculated effort to force people to see something harmful as legal. And once it's legal, they're expected to see it as normal. As we discussed in the video on capitalism, this whole government structure was designed for one purpose: to place the desires of a few above the needs of the many, all while pretending it's something that people agreed to. Imagine fabricating authority and then declaring it legal, even when it's clearly a lie. How realistic is it for the same government that created this to rise one day and eliminate it? How can governments that were designed to act as a funnel for channeling collective resources into the hands of a few while claiming it was agreed by all, then change and start looking out for all? The truth is that it is unrealistic. But most importantly, the system itself is unsustainable. It is only a matter of time before those affected by it revolt. But it also reveals something deeper. It shows us the true design of many governments around the world today and re-echoes the notion that they are not capable of saving humanity. It is also a reminder of something we should all know by now, that systems built on falsehoods will always collapse. It's only a matter of time. You can see the cracks more clearly when you study the foundation. When you ask how the governments and their respective laws came into existence in the first place. Many of the laws we follow today were crafted and pushed by nations presented as legal collectives. But the truth is, most of these nations weren't formed out of unity or mutual agreement. They were formed through violence, aggression, and control. They were built by forcing natural human groups into artificial holes, then placing them under governments controlled by a few. And here's the painful truth. Those structures still carry the weight of past evils. Evils that were never confronted, just rebranded, renamed, and passed along. Take Nigeria, for example. It's often presented as one united, homogeneous people, but in reality, Nigeria is made up of diverse ethnic communities. Every now and then, those differences they tried to bury resurface, and it often results in one loss or the other. The same things we are talking about how to save ourselves from. But Nigeria isn't the only case. Out of almost 200 nations in the world today, fewer than 10 were truly formed through mutual agreement and genuine respect for diversity. And even among those few, their histories are still stained with conflict, aggression, and violence. This tells us something. Even where diversity was undeniable, it wasn't always respected. When you study the scriptures, or even any historical account of how governments were formed, you begin to see their true nature. These systems were never meant for everyone. At the core, they were designed to serve a few while keeping the rest under control. That's why there's always a struggle, a constant push, either to join the privileged few or to resist them. And let's be honest, that struggle is far more likely to continue than for any government to suddenly rise and lead humanity in the right direction. To truly save humanity and the environment, governments would need deep structural change. And as it stands, that kind of change doesn't seem close. So, instead of waiting, begging, or hoping for governments to fix it, maybe it's time we shift our focus. Maybe it's time we turn to the right agency, the one that can actually save us all. So what is this right agency, you may ask? You've probably heard people, especially in Nigeria, express frustration with pastors or church leaders for staying silent or doing nothing about the state of the nation. There's a reason for it, but it is often downplayed by the loyalists who often push back. They will always say, it's not the church's job to fix society. That's the government's role. But when you ask them how they arrived at such a position, where the church has no role in governance, that it is now an exclusive job of the government, most of them can't explain. Their inability to explain how they arrived at what they are saying is part of the lack of clarity we mentioned in one of the previous videos that limits the growth of nations. This belief that church leaders have no role in shaping society, no role in governance, is not just wrong. It's the very crack that allowed the governments to continue to exist, even in instances where they need serious structural changes. Because if you go back in history, you'll find that what they now call religion and governance were once deeply connected. The separation we see today didn't start out of wisdom, it started out of conflict. The conflicts arose from the same reality we are referring to today. The reality that governments created out of aggression and violence was never going to take humanity anywhere beyond where we are today. In managing conflicts, the idea of separating the state from religion was introduced. At least that's how it was presented. But in practice, it created two systems that work almost the same way. Both claim to serve the people, but both end up protecting the interests of a few. This separation gave church leaders on one side and state leaders on the other, each focused on their own lane. The government used secular laws and policies to guide or control the masses while enriching a select few. The church, meanwhile, did the same, using theological language, doctrines, and rituals. Of course, some people like to push back on this. They'll say, the church is about connecting people to God, not about control. The problem with that school of thought always shows up when you ask a simple question. What does it really mean to connect people to God? We explored this in the video where we talked about religion and global advancement. If you haven't seen it yet, you should watch it. In fact, take time to go through all our videos. You'll begin to see how life, society, economy, governance, dogmas are all connected. The truth is, serving God, or being connected to God, is not separate from sustaining humanity and the environment. It's not separate from how resources are shared or how systems are built. If not for the manipulation of the many for the benefit of a few, there would be no separation of state and religion. These things are discussed in detail in Legacy and also in Beyond the Past. What many people call religion today is often one of two things, either a complete misunderstanding of reality or a desperate attempt to mislead the masses for the benefit of a few. But if you take the time to truly interrogate things, you will understand that service to God is deeply tied to human and environmental sustenance. You will also realize that everyone is religious, because at its core, religion is not about rituals or doctrines. It's about structure. It's the way humanity organizes itself into ethnic institutions, into communities, to function better. And why is that arrangement necessary? To survive, to preserve ourselves, and to care for the environment we all depend on. The church in its true meaning is not a building or a brand. It's a group of people within an ethnic community working to reconcile that community with its original purpose. And that purpose is not far from human and environmental sustenance. But today, almost every ethnic community has been disrupted and corrupted by both the governments and the present-day churches or religious institutions as they claim to be. Most of the ethnic communities have lost their governance system. The same thing we said is the heartbeat, the soul, the hallmark of their existence. If a community no longer has the freedom to govern itself, to make its own laws, to choose its own leaders, whether they are functional or spiritual, then that community is in trouble. The community will be unable to provide trust amongst its members, will not be able to hold people accountable, and it will create the society that we have today, a society where we all need to be saved from its chaos. So it is neither the institutions that label themselves religious institutions, nor the government or any entity acting on its behalf or authority that can save humanity. Instead, it is the church, a community of members of ethnic communities focused on economy, governance, and rule of law. Right from its inception, this was the purpose of the church, to bring believers of an ethnic institution to save that community, and through that, save humanity and the environment. As a member of any ethnic community, you are among those who can save humanity. Your first step is to gather with others from your community and form a true church, one rooted in purpose, one focused on healing the community. Because if you don't, you risk the consequences we've already talked about. You risk watching your life and the lives of your children or grandchildren fall into the hands of people too reckless to care. Think about this. Would you put your family on a flight with a drunk pilot and a reckless co-pilot? That's exactly what it's like when you hand over your life and the lives of your loved ones to today's governments or modern churches. These are unstable systems. Drunk units, in a sense, just waiting to crash with everyone on board. The only way forward is to detox them, and that responsibility falls on the true church. We need a community of believers, grounded in their ethnic roots, who are ready to return to the scriptures, to the record books, and to the philosophies. People who are willing to uncover the truth and use those truths to shape policies, build technologies, and issue scientific statements that will force both government and the so-called churches to refocus. That's the only way to save what's left. This is why we have the Civil Revolution Initiative. The goal is simple: to take on global challenges, not as soft problems, but as the complex, layered tasks they truly are. It starts with creating the right environment, a space where people who understand what we're facing can come together, not to criticize, not to cast blame, but to collaborate, to forge ahead. It's not about forcing one voice or one strategy or one path, but about bringing diverse ideas, different strategies, and merging them into something that will actually move societies forward. So whether you're looking for a platform where your voice can finally count, a place to invest in the future, or even just the right tools, support, or funding to keep going, Civil Revolution is here for you. Check it out at www.civilrevo.org. As part of the larger mission, we also have the NEAT initiative. This initiative is designed to connect with the global vision of building a better society by empowering Nigeria and other African nations to contribute their own quota in shaping that future. NEAT offers tools, projects, and platforms that allow Nigerians to share their ideas, grow their voice, and access financial support for any ethical business they're building. You can check out our other videos for deeper insights into what NEAT is all about and how the strategy is designed to move Nigeria and other African nations from where they are to where they truly need to be. To be part of the initiative, visit wrevo.org/NEAT. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.